Breaking today, King Charles's Prince Harry dilemma has got even worse, with his sons completely divided over whether the monarch should sit down face to face with the duplicitous Duke of Sussex. Of course, Harry, as we know, has spent the past fortnight trying to publicly bully his cancer-stricken father into this face-to-face. But on the other hand, Prince William making it clear that if the monarch does give legitimacy to a traitor, to someone who has sold the family silver, to someone who has sold the family's reputation down the river, he will be furious. In the Royalist Substack today, Tom Sykes describes this as King Charles's no-win Harry dilemma. He has spoken to a friend of the king who said Charles begged his sons not to make his final years a misery. Unfortunately, that is exactly what they are doing. And friends of the king added to Tom Sykes and the Royalist that the king just can't win when it comes to meeting or not meeting Harry in London next week. One friend said whatever the king does, he will make his relationship with one of his sons worse. Reconciliation with Harry will be a provocation to William, who has made it very clear he does not believe Harry can be trusted. Tom writes, in normal times, a king could afford to put his nose out of joint. But these are not normal times. As Prince Harry himself has said, nobody knows how long the cancer-hit king has left to live, and power is ebbing from Charles to William, as power brokers position themselves for a change of reign. The friend of the king's added, Charles begged his sons not to make his final years a misery. Unfortunately, that is exactly what they were doing. But Tom Sykes said, I feel that if there was to be a meeting, there would at least have been phone calls between Harry and his father in recent weeks to prepare the ground. I understand that is not the case. But he adds, Charles is boxed in. If he reaches out to Harry, he risks detonating what is left of his relationship with William. If he holds back, he deepens the Sussex exile. In his book, Harry recalled William calling Meghan difficult, rude, and abrasive and shoving him to the floor of Nottingham Cottage. For Charles, extending the hand of friendship to William's bitterest enemy would be a risk.
New wrinkle in the standoff. Chatter from royal watchers isn't just that Harry wants a sit-down, it's that Meghan is allegedly driving a condition sheet behind the scenes. The picture painted by commentators is blunt: apologies owed, status courtesies observed, and security underwritten, turning a bedside check-in into a negotiated summit. For a couple who framed their brand around boundaries and respect, critics say these reported asks feel less like peace and more like leverage. Layer that over a solemn memorial date, cancer treatments, and a thin margin for stress, and you see why insiders call it a powder keg. In normal seasons, a sovereign might risk a family olive branch. These aren't normal seasons. Authority is already drifting toward William, and every gesture now lands with succession-level significance.
A father might want to embrace his son. A king must count the political cost. Last year, speculation about a well-child meeting fizzled when Harry's camp said he wanted to see his father, but that Charles had other priorities. Now, Angela Levin, you have also been hearing of some of these demands that Prince Harry is apparently making, and you've often spoken of these demands. You know, an apology, particular treatment of Meghan. You believe Harry is still making these demands, and you are actually pretty clear that Charles really must refuse to see him. If you're enjoying what we're doing here on Outspoken, please consider joining our thriving community over on Substack, www.outspoken.live. You can sign up completely for free, but Substack is so important to me. It is a free speech platform. It protects me from big tech cancellation. Plus, you get to communicate directly with me. Head on over www.outspoken.live, enter your email address, and sign up today.
Yes, they must. Can I just say that his comment that he didn't have so much to live and he wanted his children to be kind, that's what he said to both the brothers after his father died. And Harry sold that to the newspapers. And that's why you can't use Harry again because they can't trust him. Ironically, that was a sentence that has become very important now, but it wasn't said now. It was said when Prince Philip died at the funeral. Anyway, yes, I mean, I think he can't. He can't because Harry's demands have got absolutely ridiculous. And I think a couple who are saying it are being completely silly and know it. He wants HRH to be given to Meghan and that everybody must curtsy or bow to her from now on. That's never going to happen. That he's going to pay himself, Charles has got to pay himself for Harry's whole family for protection. That's not going to happen. I know that. So these things are, somebody's joking, I think. And I think King Charles as well can get out of it, because if he'll be down here in London on September the 8th when Harry is here, he will have to go to have tests on his cancer. And I don't think he can genuinely face going to see Harry either before or afterwards, because it's tiring and he needs to rest and he needs to go back to Scotland. So he's not here. The other thing is that the date is to remember the third year after the late Queen Elizabeth has died. Now, I think it's very easy for him to say, I really can't come to this. I don't want to break that a very important occasion to me. It's a very upsetting day. I can't. Because he's going to come in like a tornado and shout, given all these things. And I think that's a very reasonable, sensible way to behave and to have absolutely nothing to do with him. And if he really wanted his father, he would come asking very little, asking for love, asking for building up what they do get very well like to do together, something like that. But actually to come and show how strong and mighty he is, big shot, I think that's absolutely totally absurd. It's actually putting him in the front page of newspapers, but actually getting nowhere.
I know.
I hope so.
I know, but well, exactly. We hope so. We hope so indeed. We don't know, but what seems to be the case, Angela, and what I am certain of, is that Harry is now doing the thing, and this is where I get so angry, because this is the huge irony. Do you remember, Angela, for years and years and years, he was talking about how it was William and Charles and the royal family who were manipulating the mainstream media, who were planting stories. He kept on talking about planting stories. Now, Angela, all of these stories are being planted by Harry. All of them. All of the leaks to the Daily Mail about the Royal Peace Summit. All of these leaks to the Daily Mirror now about, oh no, Charles is going to meet him. And what he is doing is really trying to use the print, because William won't answer his calls or his text messages. Charles will not pick up the phone to him. So he is now so desperate that he's having to use the British MSM, the Royal Rota, to try and get his message across. He thinks it puts Charles in a weakened position, because it's like, oh, Charles won't want to be seen as bad if he refuses to meet me. Well, William is actually right, Angela, where if Charles was doing what the public wanted, there would be no way he would take that meeting. I mean, very few members of the public, certainly here in the United Kingdom, are going to turn on King Charles for saying, no, Harry, I'm not going to see you. So again, I think Harry thinks he's doing something which is quite strategic and quite clever, but as usual with these two, it will probably backfire anyway.
Let's address the pipeline. For years, Harry accused the palace of planting stories. Now, the countercharge is that the planting runs his way. Trial balloons about peace summits, tip-offs about imminent meetings, framing that nudges a sick father toward yes. Fold in the menu of alleged conditions. Deference, security, mea culpas, and you hit the core problem, trust. That's why veterans say Camilla has urged caution. Don't let a reunion become a tactical ambush. The calendar gives the king cover, medical appointments, a heavy anniversary, finite energy. If a meeting happens, it must be on Charles's terms, quietly and without choreography. If it doesn't, the reason can be simple and humane. Health first.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. Yes, and it's actually incredibly unpleasant, isn't it?
It is.
And I think to attack an older man like that who's trying to work very hard for the country and keep up going round and seeing people in other countries, it's very, very difficult. I do think, though, that the Queen Camilla will actually support him and help him not to go ahead with this, because she knows how upset he is, but he can manage without thinking about it or wondering what the two children he's never really properly talked to are like anymore. But I think that she will be strong and loving, and she seems to be there nearly all the time for him, and that sort of boosts him up and makes sure that he knows that, someone loves him at least.
Angela, you also say Charles has to be wary because, and remember, you were his biographer, you spent all of that time with him, you wrote sort of, the big book on him. But you say that now Harry has actually become so hateful, you don't know what he could do because he could do or say anything. And you say to the king that he mustn't trust Harry.
Yes, he mustn't trust Harry, because as an example today, that sentence that they have to be kind and he doesn't know how long he's got. There was no sign of cancer then, and just Harry got a load of money for selling it in America, and people were furious. And Princess Anne actually said when she last saw him way back now, she said, the only thing I can talk to Harry is about the weather, because he's going to sell the rest. Now, if you know that, you're not going to let yourself get stuck like that. And however soft King Charles is, he won't give in. I like to feel that, I'm sure. There's lots of excuses. And Harry also, he demands the time. He's coming on Monday the 8th, and he will see his father at the minute when he tells him he'll have to drop everything. Well, that's not going to happen, is it? Because he's not even going to be in London. He's going to be in Scotland, unless he's coming down for treatment. So it's actually, he's boiling something, water, but there's nothing inside. There's nothing there. It's not cooking.
People are worried, though,
Meghan in like that.
They are worried, though, because Charles obviously still has that parental love, which never goes away. And how do you feel about the fact that he is now almost stuck between the two boys, between William and Harry? Because you say William will never forgive Harry for what he has done, specifically to his grandparents, to Queen Elizabeth II and to the late Prince Philip, and also, of course, to Catherine. Because we've got to remember, and how on earth can people forget this? Catherine was accused of being a bully herself, being cold, and
lazy.
Well, yes, and racist too. And actually, I sort of wish Charles would sometimes remember these things, Angela, because remember, it was also Charles. It was also Charles who Harry and Meghan leaked to that awful little weirdo, Omen Scobie, Michael Jackson lookalike, that he was the royal racist too. So Charles, do you really want to be meeting with these people?
No, well, that's disgusting as well, wasn't it? Because that was specially done in one country, where it was put that Harry knew it was one of the leading royals, and I can't imagine King Charles actually doing that, because in Buckingham Palace there's loads of people of all different colours. He loves the Commonwealth. Why would he say he hated it? I mean, if he wanted to, he could have not taken the job of running the Commonwealth ages ago, but he does. He loves it. He enjoys it enormously. And actually, he said to me when I was talking to him at a garden party, he said he was very, very pleased to see Meghan. This was early on. And that actually, I said, there's been rumours about what's going on with her colouring and stuff. Oh, no. He said, the more the better. He said, we like to be different, and it'd be good fun. It would be good for us. And I don't mind that she's comes from a home that sort of fell apart. Because, well, look at us. And he sort of made that sort of joke. And it wasn't sort of wiping me away. It was actually very nice and honest. And he was open because she did the things he liked. I suppose she rang them up firstward and found what they were. She liked to go to the theatre. She liked music. He said lots of things I can talk to her about. So he was enthusiastic. My silly voice on it is not accurate, but it was a sort of, he had a very nice for her. And then you gradually realise what a nightmare she is. But I do worry about Harry because this picture, there we are, is ideal picture of him being right down, very unhappy. What's he going to do? Nothing works out. Nobody wants him. His children must want him, but it doesn't seem to have count that. And I think, though, that a father can say, I love my son, I absolutely love him, but I don't love what he's doing, and I'm going to stick with that. And I think a lot of parents do that. I've sometimes done that. You don't drop them, but you do think at all, but you do think this is not right. I have to draw myself in and not just allow that to happen.
Well, for example, Angela, Charles's own mother, the late Queen Elizabeth II, had to make that very difficult decision about her favourite son, Prince Andrew, when she knew that it was necessary not to cut him off personally, but to cut him off from royal duties. Now, Angela, at the same time all of this is going on, there is a very clear view that Prince William is growing in stature. Now, of course, part of this comes from the difficulties with Charles's health, meaning that William's reign is likely closer than what many people thought. You've pointed out that there's a new extract in this Valentine Lowe book about William where it quotes Michael Gove, who obviously was a very senior government minister for many years in the Conservative government. He's now the editor of The Spectator. He's quoted in this book saying of William, "It was once, what can I do to help? Now it is more, these are my plans." You could sense he had grown in authority and confidence. And William's made it clear as well, he wasn't happy with the way that Boris Johnson prorogued Parliament, for example, over Brexit, and some suggestion actually that he might try and take a bit of a tougher hand to politics, which obviously would be very, very controversial. But what do you make of the fact that with all of this going on between Harry and Charles, at the same time, politics and the sort of Westminster deep state, the establishment, are preparing for a King William?
This is the head-heart split. A father may ache for his son, a king must weigh precedent, leaks, and collateral damage. William's red line, born of years of accusations, private exchanges repeated in public, and the lingering sting of claims about Catherine and the late Queen and Prince Philip, has emptied the trust bank. That's why old hands talk about controlled encounters, short windows, private secretaries present, nothing negotiable in corridors. Parental love endures. But the late Queen's template with Andrew, love retained, duty ring, fenced, looms large, you can care deeply and still refuse terms.
Yes, I think that's sensible. It doesn't mean, I hope, that the king is going to die in a few days. I hope he can live for several years, and that's quite possible. But I think William's attitude has taken a turn, and where he was before, like when he was at university, he kept saying, I don't like to do these things, I'm not going to, it's so boring, I don't want to cut ribbons, and Catherine, together with her parents who helped him feel in a very good place when he went to visit, that she had to help him find things that were very powerful for him, things that he would really like, not bother about little bits and pieces, because he just didn't like it. He got irritable with them. So now that's what he does. He does big things, he does important things, and he's dedicated to them. So that is a very big change in his life and has worked very well. So it's made him be a much better heir to the throne because he understands what his responses are. And I think that understanding what's going on in the royal family, that he needs to be ready, because Charles had, years and years, decades, to be waiting for his coming from heir to actual crown and be king. But William won't have that so many chances, of course, not so many years. But actually, it's good to learn, to think. And actually, you don't have to be a yes man. You don't have to say whatever somebody comes in, whoever they are politically, and say, well, we'd like you to, well, hang on, let me think about it. Let me do this, let me do that. I think that's right. I know they can't do anything too political, but they can actually do something that they think is important in the way that the world is running. And I think that's a very good thing that he's working on it. Before he did, people still call him lazy. I don't call him lazy. I think he's very busy and also very much looking after the family and his children, which I think will help make a very good for the children. It will be very good for the children. And I think he seems very good. When he goes around, he's much more easy talking to people who are standing in the street shouting for him and waving and all that. He's very nice to them. He tells them little snippets about his home, which I'm sure they all absolutely love. And he's very, very sweet with little boys and girls. They hold their hands out, he picks them up, he's very nice to him. He would never have done that some years ago because he would have felt awkward. He was slightly embarrassed by it all. But now he's sort of opened up because he's having a very personal life that is very happy for him.
Very true, Angela. But at the same time, we have this ongoing, and you've described it, Angela, as strange nastiness. I've called it a campaign against both William and his wife, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, from the Daily Mail, which has been pretty twisted, actually, over the past couple of weeks. It's really been led by their columnist, but the whole tone of the newspaper towards this couple has changed. They've become absolutely obsessed with finding reasons to attack William and Catherine. They've decided they shouldn't be moving into this house, Forest Lodge. They're not doing enough work. They're even, Angela, totally almost captured by this holiday that William and Catherine took in Kefalonia. Whereas, Camilla was on holiday with people over summer and the Daily Mail don't really care about that. So what is going on? Why is the Daily Mail so determined at this juncture to try and bring William and Catherine down?
Zoom out and two currents shape every move. First, William's rise. Firmer voice, bigger agenda. The system aligning around him, which hardens resistance to anything that looks like rewarding chaos while the air carries more load. Second, the media knife fight. Rival papers jostling for scoops, tones flipping, some columns turning surprisingly sharp on William and Catherine, fueling talk of score settling ahead of litigation. Public sentiment matters, and there's scant evidence UK voters would punish a king for declining a PR-laced reconciliation. If there's a meeting, expect it to be private, brief, and boring. No conditions, no cameras, no spin. If not, anticipate silence and business as usual.
Yeah, I don't know. I find it very worrying. But I've noticed that other papers are trying to do that too. I tried to sort of work it out, but I can't. Another thing they attacked Catherine and William for was that there's a huge place, like a factory, except it doesn't work, but it's a huge place. And anyone who's royal and wants a piece of furniture or something, they can go along and just take it from that because somebody has used it at some time. And Catherine went in and thought she would get this this table that will seat 24 people. Now, what's wrong with that? I mean, if she wants to have a lot of people, what's wrong with that? There was a big fuss about it. Why is she taking that? Why is she doing that? It seems that whatever they do, if they breathe even, they're actually shouting at them and they don't like it. And they think they shouldn't have the house and they threw people out. They didn't throw them out. They had two people who lived in a tiny cottage very, very near, and they've given them a much better and place and also in a better home. And the people who were there were very grateful and thank you very much. But it was turned into the fact that they were throwing them out. Well, they weren't. So I don't understand this at all, why the Mail should do this. I've got two sort of very soft ideas. One is that they hope that when Harry goes to court next year and tries to beat the Daily Mail or the Mail on Sunday for using ways of getting in touch with them or not doing anything proper, and they would want a massive amount of money. And I think if they sort of put in a few nasty words about William and Catherine and all the royal family that's going on now, maybe the judge will be a bit more lenient if Harry wins. But then I think it's a silly thing to think, because surely not. The Mail can't be like that. I mean, I was there for a very long time and I hope they could never be that. I can't imagine that they want to do that to please Meghan, because they're not going to get great stories. Most of them would be lies. And you couldn't believe the ones that weren't, really. I think that's also very bad. But to be like that and to be joking about them and sort of cynical and unpleasant, I have no idea. But it upsets me very much, because I am a monarchist and I think that we have a very good royal family, apart from, not absolutely perfect, and nobody is. And I think that would work. I don't want to have a prime minister who's got thrown out and then we take him in to run the country. No, thank you.
Oh no, it's very odd what is going on.
Do you know?
Well, I think there was utter fury at the Daily Mail in regards to the Sun revealing the story of the Forest Lodge home. And the problem is that the Mail had earlier in the summer been investigating. Do you remember that they were going to be moving to a different house?
Yes.
On the estate in Windsor? But it wasn't that house. So they got that piece of information wrong, but they felt like they had been guided in the wrong direction by Kensington Palace. And then they erupted in fury when the Sun ran the story. So I think there's partly this sort of competition going on between the two newspapers, but that is pathetic. They've got to get over it. And then I also believe, as you point out, Angela, that there is this attempt to try and prove to Harry and Meghan, we will be your friend. We will attack Catherine and William in a way that the other newspapers won't. But you've got to drop this case. You've got to drop the case with Doreen Lawrence and Elton John and all of those other celebrities. And it's so wrong. It's so wrong. But what is great is that people can see through this. Now, I believe that there should be absolutely fair coverage of William and Catherine. There are times when I will cover things to do with William and Catherine that some people might not like, because I am an independent journalist. But the difference here is that this is not independent. This is all being done from on high, from the editors, because why on earth do Liz Jones and Amanda Platala, who are very different women, who have very different views about things, all of a sudden come out with virtually identical columns using all of the greatest hits to put down William and Catherine, like, they've only done this number of duties. And I think it's actually just so cruel when you're dealing with a family who, by the way, are still rocked after everything that happened to their mother, their wife, their leader, their spiritual leader, Catherine, the Princess of Wales, who for a long time they were not certain would even make it through. Things were so bad. So I think there's a whole load of issues going on, but the Daily Mail have played this so badly, and I think they've been completely repulsive, if I'm totally honest.
Either way, the hinge is the same. Can this family manage a tiny, trust-proof interaction, or will every attempt boomerang into another headline cycle? We'll keep following what's real, what's theater, and what it signals for the succession.